Salakia, and my apology for the interruption because I had to cut the video short from part two. I mean, from part one of the sit down lesson. This is part two of the sit down lesson of the two news articles that I'm bringing out. The first one from the latest attack that the Russians did to the Ukraine army. Come to find out that they had targeted an apartment area in the Kyiv, Ukraine region where it was a drone attack and a missile strike where 22 people were killed. And I believe it was like three children and a toddler was killed in that airstrike slash drone attack. And this was the latest attack from the Russian army. So that shows you a prime example. Once again, the Russia-Ukraine situation is intensifying in those areas over there. But continuing on with the reading of this news article, it says the Ukraine military is broadly ready to launch its much touted counteroffensive against Russia, but it is waiting the order to attack from senior officials in Kyiv. Defense Minister Alinsky Renskilov has said, if I pronounce his name right, as soon as we have God's will, the weather, and the decision by the command, we will do it, the official stated during a press conference on Friday. Reskinov was briefly briefing the media on the state of Ukraine forces and their use of heavy weapon provided by the Western backers. Right, with the recent military finance assistance from Canada and the United States, and the Patriot missile system have recently arrived too. So, I wanted to add a note to that. But continuing on with the reading, it says Ukraine has been supplied with very advanced weapon systems, especially in the terms of armor-fired vehicles. The minister reported, though he added that training on how to operate them is still underway, right? Because I believe the United States is going to train them. Because I believe they recently deployed some U.S. reserves to train them and have them being deployed over here in Oklahoma, which is a military facility from the United States. They've been training them over there as of lately as well too for the past couple of months. So I just want to add a note to that. And it says the NATO Secretary General Gene Stoltenberg said this week that members on the U.S.-led military bloc has delivered 98% of the arms pledged to Kyiv, including the 1,550 armed vehicles and 230 tanks. The head of the U.S. European Commander Christopher Koloviv made a similar assessment during the congressman hearing in his homeland. However, Michael Pologla, if I pronounced the name right, and added to Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky, has challenged those claims, asserting to an interview that the delivery level cited by NATO officials was too high and that his country needed more weapons. Reskinlaw previously cautioned against high expectations regarding the further events, arguing that hopes in Ukraine and amongst the foreign backers were too elevated. Kyiv has rejected the idea of peace talks with Moscow and has pleaded to continue the fighting until it sees all the territories that was half lost to Russia. Leading the Western media outlets has warned that an expanding push may be Ukraine's last chance to make significant gains, and the failure to do so would undermine its hopes of future military assistance. Moscow considers the conflict in Ukraine to be part of a U.S.-led proxy war against Russia, led by Ukraine troops with widespread Western support. The Kremlin has accused Washington of deliberately turning Ukraine into an anti-Russia to provoke hostilities. So as I was reading this news article, continued to part one where I left off, now into part two. of these two news articles, and this was the article right here. Just got through reading to be part of part 2 of this lesson. As it says, Ukraine troops generally ready for a counteroffensive, minister says. So with that, hopefully part 1 and part 2 of this lesson was edifying.
When I do this, I put it on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
To go to that money guy, I'm trying to go to
Right.
this thing here, watch it.
Mm-hmm.
What is